Hi there, welcome back to the Headbangers Ball, where we're continuing to profile the Dutch heavy rock scene. Yes, the Headbangers Ball goes Dutch, and we will be back to the metal markets a little bit later on. But right now we've come to the Focus recording studios in Amsterdam to meet a band that you should all be familiar with. I'm talking about Dutch rockers Sleeze Beez, and we're actually in the rehearsal studio because the guys are rehearsing for their upcoming Dutch tour to promote a new album called Power Tool. So right now I'm joined by Jan and Andrew. Welcome to the show. Nice to see you guys.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Let's talk a little bit about the new album. Your first international album, Screwed, Blued and Tattooed, achieved obviously recognition outside of Europe.
Right.
Did that put a lot of pressure on you to kind of follow up, and how did you go about following that up?
I would say, like it did well for us, especially in America, and I guess like a new album always puts like pressure on you. I think basically we went in and we didn't want to do like Screwed and Tattooed Part 2, and I think we accomplished that with Power Tool, the new album, and it's much more livelier and everything, and. It's like I said, it of course it puts pressure on you, but then again, it'd be very boring if there wasn't any pressure.
The only real pressure that it put on us was from the band itself. I mean, there wasn't any outside pressure because, I mean, it was successful for us. I mean, it put us on the map and did wonders for us in America, and gave us a visa to do our next album. But there wasn't any pressure from the record company to come up with, like say, for instance, if you have a mega smash hit, to come up with the next #1 song that you've already written on the last album. I mean, that kind of pressure wasn't there. So we were kind of confident when we went into to write, and basically we're left free to take as much time as we wanted to write this album. And
they did bust our balls a bit about,
I was going to say it was quite a long time in the making.
It was.
Did you have some initial problems there?
well, we had a lot of problems.
Yeah, first we they thought it was a great idea to send us to Los Angeles and work with this one producer. Wrong. And basically we were there for like 4 months, and we didn't use any of the stuff we wrote there. We did a couple of good things. We hooked up with Gene Simmons, which was great, but nothing really came out of it. And so I think in total we wrote some like 32 songs.
Oh, right.
And 12 made it to the album.
And you ended up in London, is that right?
Well,
yeah, that's it.
Ended up
we missed
in
our play.
England.
We missed our connecting flight at Heathrow, and ended up recording in London.
Right.
No, we got a pretty good deal on a studio in East Sussex. Called Park Gate Studios.
In Battle.
And in Battle of all places. That was appropriate. That was kind of like we ended up flat on our face after flying high in Los Angeles for 4 months, like Jan said. It was kind of a side road that we took, and we should have just kept doing what we knew we were doing best. There was all these people trying to find out what music Sleeze Beez was about, and instead of asking us, we're the band, and letting us do what we do, they listened to like Screwed, Blued and Tattooed and said, it's got to sound like this and you got to do that. At the end of the day, we ended up just writing songs that were pretty average, but nothing good enough for us.
We said, forget about this. And we went back home, and then we went to New York, and for some reason in New York the weather is much more like it is here. Like we feel much more at home. And we did accomplish a lot of work there, and that's where we hooked up with Gary Lyons, who ended up producing the album.
So you obviously learned a lesson from that experience.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot.
Very expensive lesson.
Yes.
That was the only setback, was that we ended up spending a lot of money that was initially supposed to be used for recording this album. And that's why we ended up in a shack in the middle of the countryside in England recording this album, for relatively little money. And no, but I mean, England was the exact opposite as LA, and that's exactly what we wanted, and especially the record company wanted. It was kind of they kind of put us in a shack, like I said, in the middle of the countryside, and said, well, let's see what you come up with here. And we felt more at home there. I mean, at least they got reasonable pub hours, so we kept us out of the pub for a limited amount of time.
was Sleeze Beez rehearsing Raise a Little Hell, the first single from the upcoming album Power Tool. And Jan and Andrew are still with me on this Dutch edition of the Headbangers Ball. And I was wondering, guys, it seems to me that your kind of attitude and exuberance seems to be more in touch with American bands. Do you think that that's one of the things that helps you to stand out from a lot of other European artists?
It helps. I think it helps in a way, but it's not really something that we've, sat down around a table and discussed and try to figure out. Well, if we're going to make it worldwide, instead of just staying in Holland, we're going to have to sound like a bunch of Americans. I mean, I grew up personally, and I think the rest of the guys. I mean, I grew up since I was, first started listening to music. It was either British rock or American rock. I mean, there was no such thing as Dutch rock, and. I mean, I grew up in England, so I listened to Slade and Sweet and all that stuff around about that time. So
Great stuff.
And it just automatically, I mean, obviously the American rock scene generates from that as well. And it just seemed a natural thing that if I was going to scream through a microphone or play guitar, then I'd have to, my influences were like old AC/DC, like I said, Slade, Thin Lizzy and stuff like that. So it seemed like an automatic thing to do instead of search for something original, which is not, I'm here to enjoy myself, not to invent a new atom bomb or something, or invent something that nobody's come up with. I'd rather leave that to scientists and have fun, making music.
I think the fact that our career took off in America initially with Screwed was a lot of. It seems like a lot of people think that we're actually American because we've been there so many times and we've done so much out there, and. But, especially if you see the band live, because we're very much a live band. And even, especially on this new album, Power Tool is like a lot raunchier and like really a lot like more livelier. And I think that definitely shows that European raunch to it.
Yeah.
Something the Americans
Can't put their finger on.
can't put their finger on. It's just, it's either, it's always too slick, some kind of way. There is no harmony vocals on this album.
Is there anything that is inherently Dutch about Sleeze Beez?
About the music or about the band? Well, about the band. I mean,
Obviously there's you.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but what about the music?
I don't think there's anything Dutch musically, the content or anything. I mean, we don't sing about windmills, cheese, and stuff like that because. I mean, rock and roll's the heritage that rock and roll has is, Route 66 and the black blues influence, the white rock of the 60s, 70s. That's the heritage we have. I mean, that's where you get your influence and your input. When we write songs, for example, like Raise a Little Hell, it's basically about going out, whether it be in America or in England or in Holland or wherever.
Having a good time.
Having a good time, and you can do that anywhere on the planet.
In the world, exactly.
The fact that we sing in English, it's just because the majority of the people who listen to rock music understand English.
I'm probably going to do the next album. We're probably going to be singing in Polish. I mean, like, basically, like, we're trying to spend as much money as we can and not sell any records. So that would be a good thing to do.
Not.
Not.
No, I was just wondering if your surroundings and your country. I'm sure they do influence you in some way.
Yeah.
Not obviously, like you said, windmills and cheese and stuff. I just wondered if there was any specific thing that you could put your finger on.
I would say there's one thing. I mean, like, we're in Amsterdam here, and as you know or as you may not know, anything goes here. I mean, like, people are not surprised about nothing. You can do whatever you want out here. There is no restriction on what you can do, and so living here, you tend to take that attitude, and it makes you very open to anything and able to deal with anything that comes along, and I think that kind of shines through in the music. Like we do what we do. And I think that if you want to say, can you put your finger on it, I would say that.
I think that's a good point. Yeah. Talking a little bit about the lyrics, from what I can tell of the new album, you're dealing with similar subjects to the Screwed album. Is it your intention to ever grow up, or maybe you don't want to and you just want to offer this kind of escapism to fans?
Right.
She says these words, she flies away in Peter Pan outfit.
I think first of all, we do what we like to do, and like we the kind of music that we make is about having a good time, and because basically that's what we like doing best. And so that, you know, there's no messages, there's no political meanings, and we don't ride the groovy hippie trail. This is like straight down Broadway rock and roll, you know. And I think, especially now, you know, there's rock and roll has changed a lot, and there seem to be so many bands with messages and all that stuff. And I think, you know, actually because of that, you know, that's going to be good for us.
Yes.
Because hopefully, you know, because you know, I think kids, you know, they're done with school on Friday, or they're done with work. They just got paid what they want to do. They want to go raise hell, have some fun, and have a break from life and everything, you know. And you know, so I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, but it's, you know, like you said about growing up. I mean,
we tried and we gave up.
That's why we play in a rock band. I mean,
Exactly.
you got to be pretty adolescent, you know, up here to get on a stage and jump around and be stupid for about an hour and a half, which is basically what we do. And you know, if I'd have grown up, I'd most probably be wearing a suit and tie, and I wouldn't be talking to you now. So it's kind of, it goes with the territory, and I like it like that because you know, I don't consider myself an adult, but I do consider myself like a responsible adolescent. If you know,
Speak for yourself.
Okay.
Well, there's a good message in that, responsible adolescent.
That's the only one you're going to get.
Okay, so you're going to tour the Netherlands in February. It's the 14th at Sleeze Beez are playing the Paradiso.
That's
Is that
right.
right? So that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. Thanks very much for joining us
thank you.
on our Dutch edition of the Headbangers Ball, and good luck with Power Tool. And let me say, this is just a preliminary interview because we are going to hopefully be meeting up with Sleeze Beez to talk to them in more depth about the album. So we're just a little taster of things to come. And actually, we're going to be returning to the Metal Market a little bit later on. But before we do, we're going to show you a Sleeze Beez video. And this is from the last album, and it's called Stranger in Paradise.
Cause I'm a street
That was Sleeze Beez, Stranger Than Paradise. And